It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Ishmael from Dad Is Not a Noun. I have a secret. I am a 40-year-old man that likes wrestling.
Ouch. That's a big oof.
Right? And I'm not afraid to say that. I love wrestling, you know. I'm a throwback of the old WWF. Now it's called the WWE. I watch New Japan Wrestling. I watch AEW. I watch ROH. I watch it all. And I'm truly privileged and honored to have this brother on. He is a pro wrestler, actor, author, entrepreneur. This man has his hand on everything, man. He's just awesome like that. I'm truly privileged and honored to have Brimstone with me. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, brother. Thank you so much for having me on. What do you call it? Dad is not a noun, right? Dad isn't a noun. That's it. Dad isn't a noun. What do you call it? It is. I'm a dad, so like when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, bro, I will definitely do it. I love doing anything that has to do with fatherdom, because we are a special breed. You know what I mean? We are a special breed.
Definitely. And the reason why I chose Dad Is Not a Noun was to just change the narrative for men of color and fatherhood, but just to change the narrative in the way we look at the world today.
Yeah.
And it was just a play on words. Initially, I wanted to use the dad as a verb, but that was taken. So I was like, why not try Dad Is Not a Noun? Because, you know, I'm working on my branding and everything like that, which you are a master of branding. And so it's that 5-second pitch. The name means a lot, because when you got an interesting name, you got them. Then you have that 5 seconds.
Your elevator.
Engage them. Yep.
The elevator pitch is the 10 seconds that it usually takes to go from one floor to the next in an elevator. And that's the time you have to pitch somebody. That's what you have to, who are you? What do you do? Boom, 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 boom. That's it. You know what I mean?
So I'm on that, working on that game right now. But again, I'm privileged and honored to have you on. How are you doing? I know you're in New York, right?
Yep, I'm in New York. What do you call it? Bear with me if I'm a little, because I just have my allergies are just going absolutely crazy, and I've been stuffed up. I've had back-to-back interviews all day today, so this is my third one in a row. So I've gotten off one to the next, and each one I have to apologize beforehand because I'm in and out of stuffy nose and not stuffy nose. It's just it's the weirdest thing, but we will make it through, and it will be wonderful.
And that's why you're the champ, man. That's why I call you the champ.
Thank you.
How's it? Because I know I live in PA. So how's COVID in New York for you? Because I know it was real bad in last year, in the first couple of months of when COVID really hit New York.
COVID was pretty crazy here, especially at the beginning. It was nutty, and nobody was expecting what had come, and it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough. I got COVID in October into November. Myself, my wife, and my son. Thankfully, we all made it through. I was not well. I was in a very bad way. I'm a bigger guy, and what do you call it? I'm an older guy, so there were many points where I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Thankfully, we pulled through, all of us, including myself. Obviously, I'm here. My daughter, who's 10, my youngest, she has her friend that she grew up with, not 10 years old growing up, but since preschool. What do you call it? Her friend's mother and the father all got COVID. And within a week, her father passed away from COVID. So when people want to say that it's not real, I can tell you firsthand, it sure as hell is very real. And protect yourself, protect other people. Be human. That's it. Be human. And there's so many COVID, people are, oh, it's my rights, and shut up, dude. Just do the right thing by everybody, and stop being a pig. There's so many pigs. They go out there, you go to the supermarket, and you walk out of your car, and people have their gloves and masks and crap, and they just throw it on the floor. It's like, did your mother not teach you well? You know what I mean? Do you need an ass whooping just to make it a point that you don't act like a fool? It's like piggish things. So anyway, that being said, aside from the BS that you're getting everywhere, New York was hit a little bit harder than other places because we're all on top of each other. We're all close to each other. That's why New York City was a big one. That's why LA is a big one. California's not doing so hot. That just comes down to, people wanting to do the right thing. And if everybody said, you know what, they put, politics aside and just did what they were asked to do, you know what I mean? Then, what do you call it? It would be a much different situation. You know what I mean? That's
I
my
totally,
personal opinion.
no, I
You
totally
know,
agree with that. I love using an analogy that it's like, when you use the public bathroom, right? And
yeah,
when you finish, you wipe your butt, you wash your hands, right?
yep,
That would be the right thing to do. Your right is to not wash your hands, but the right thing to do is wash your hands,
right. You'd be surprised how many people don't. They're gonna be shaking your hand with their poop hands. Nasty ass sons of. Well, I mean, it's all how you brought up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all how you brought up. As we mentioned earlier, this is the dad isn't the noun show. You know what I mean? It's you're a dad talking, and you teach your children the right way to do things, and you know what I mean, and you bring them up the right way. Sometimes these people are not brought up the right way, and they don't think that they need to do it. They don't care because it's my body, my rules. Which, yeah, that's true. But these are the same people that are trying to get abortion okayed for not okay for women. Well, it's your body, your rules, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You know what I mean? I'm not getting political here. I'm just like let's be straight here. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm not wearing a mask. God's gonna save me. And all right, well, guess what? These are the same people that are like gun rules, gun laws.
Mhm.
My guns. Well, then why do you need a gun if God's gonna save you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's I don't want to get political, but
No, no,
like
no,
at the
no.
end of the day, let's use our brains
Yes.
and let's think here. This is something that's real. It's killing people. Yeah, the flu kills people too. Not at this quick of a rate. Not
Right.
all around the world at the same time. It's a pandemic, people.
Yeah.
Be smart. You know what I mean? If you don't want to get the shot, I understand. I got the shot, and I was a little bit like about it, and I'm all for the shots.
Right.
I just didn't feel that it was a long enough period of time for them to do, to really know what they're putting into us.
Right.
And now apparently and don't quote me on it, but maybe I believe that Johnson & Johnson is having an issue right now, where people are having big issues with that.
Yeah.
So, and that's a problem. You know what I mean? So that being said, yeah, COVID here in New York was quite nutty, and thankfully we're starting to come out of it a little bit. But I think what's happening now is too many people, because of the shots,
Right.
because of the lightning of the rains a little bit. People are starting to get too comfortable, and then everybody's getting together and hanging out and doing things and all lumped on each other in
Yeah.
pictures. And I'm like, friends, yay! Well, guess what? Your friend's cousin's brother, sister, who went to that party last Saturday night, wound up hanging out with a couple people who wound up having COVID. Now everybody in that line winds up having it, and now you're giving it to each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
be smart, people. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Be smart.
No, and I totally agree with that. And then also, what I admire you is like you put family first. Because I know, like when I emailed you about doing the interview, I
Mm,
gave you a certain time. Like this time, he's like, "Nah, dude, that's family time."
yeah.
And so I appreciate you about that. And then also, just to let you know, the reason why I'm not a father, but the reason why I created Dad Is Not a Noun
Oh,
to dedicate like it to like fathers like yourself.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're a big baseball fan. I don't know if you like the Yankees or the Mets.
I'm not a big baseball fan. I'm gonna go with the Yankees because one of my co-hosts on the Grindhouse Radio, Mr. Greer, is a huge Mets fan. So I'm
Okay.
purposely gonna go Yankees on this
Okay.
just to piss him off.
But the reason,
I could not care any less. What do you call it? It was funny because I was doing an event. It was for the Major League Baseball,
okay.
and it was at the Roseland Ballroom. And I was there. I did the red carpet for it, and then they brought me up to there was like two VIP areas. I was up at the VIP area, which was crazy because I was like, "What am I doing here?" But whatever. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. But I was in there, and what do you call it? And I literally bumped into Derek Jeter, and this is years ago when he was like a hot thing. You know what I mean? And it was funny because, and he looks at me, he goes, "You're that wrestler, right?" I was like, You're that guy in the Gillette commercial, right? And and then we were cool, and what do you call it? So that was my my Jeter story. But what do you call it? But that's really, I really don't do anything baseball. I like to play. I don't like to watch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I brought that up because I don't know if you remember that video that went viral of the little kid with the number 2 hat.
No.
Okay, it's like it was a vital. It was like Derek Jeter's last game, and they did like a video montage, and it was like a little kid wearing the number 2 hat.
Oh, okay.
And giving him like
that's his number, and like tipping his hat off to him. Okay.
And that's the kind of the similarity to Dad Is Not Now. This is me, the little kid in the stand, giving like fathers like you the salute.
Oh, thank you. Very cool. Very cool. Now you had me I'm thinking you're dad. You have like 6 kids, and you're like, oh man, what do you call it? I'm crazy over here. No, what do you call it? No, I get it.
It's just I'm a fan of great fathers, and so this is why I created this platform is to show love to great fathers. And then going back to I admire you being family first, and your story is based in family, like growing up and your love for music and being a child actor. So can you talk about like the importance of family?
Family is everything, to some people, not to everybody. To me, family is everything. What do you call it? My wife and my kids are my everything, and some people are close with their parents, some people aren't. I happen to be close with my kids, as close as I can be, not as close as my wife is, but what do you call it? Simply because she's around more often, I'm always busy. But for me, family is just I get to not be I don't have to be Brimstone. I could just be Will. And don't get me wrong, I am always Brimstone. You know what I mean? I'm always Brim. You know what I mean? But it's I can lower my defenses. You know what I mean? And come down and kind of just be. You know what I mean? And that's the best thing about it. I mean, when we're out, I have to be Brimstone. Whether we're going and we're walking down the street and somebody, wants to take a picture or stops, and we're at a restaurant, and somebody recognizes or whatever it is, and it happens plenty. I'm not an A-lister, and I know my place in the chain, the food chain. But what do you call it? I am well known enough. I mean, GHR gets between 3.5, 4 million listeners weekly worldwide. People know me from comics. They know me from wrestling. They know me from music. They know me from all different things, acting, voiceover work. So, when people see me, they go, "Oh my God, I am a recognizable person." You know what I mean? If you're looking at me, you're like, "Oh," so. Thankfully, I'm blessed with that. But. So yeah, that during those times, then I have to be Brim. But when we're home and just chilling and sitting back and watching TV, and they can all put me in my place and be like, "You're not so special, Dad." It's funny. It's really funny because my kids don't give a damn about what I do except for when it suits them. So my daughter right now, she's doing remote learning, my little one. So I have a 10-year-old, a 19 who's about to be 20, and a 23 about to be 24. And what do you call it? So my little one, she's doing remote learning right now, and she she's having these the teacher was looking to have like some special guests and so forth, like readers or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make it special because they're like the redheaded stepchildren of the school district because they're all at home. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I told them, I told the teacher, I said, look, if you're interested, I'll get you a couple of friends. You got to tell me, when, and we'll set it up.
Yeah.
So I wound up, we worked it out, and I got on a couple of my friends like Eric Schroeder from Pokemon and a whole bunch of other things. And what do you call it? Veronica Taylor, who does Ash Ketchum for Pokemon. She's the original Ash Ketchum. And there's two of my very dear friends. And my buddy Charles Martinet, who's Mario and Luigi, he was willing to do it. It's just we haven't figured out a date because, they're slow at the school trying to figure that out. What do you call it? He's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So what do you call it? But so here we are, and Erica or Veronica are coming on, and I say to her, I'm like, so are you ready for it? You excited? Like,
Right.
why? Why would I? Why? Like blah blah blah. And then,
Right.
but then she's on. She's like, hi, and she's all super excited. And then when she gets off, I'm like, so how did it go? Was it good? And and like, yeah, it was fine. It's and I'm like, meanwhile, she's gushing about it, to
Right.
whatever. And blah 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 blah, and all the kids are like super excited about it, like the teacher's super excited about it, and like I'm going, really, like you can't give me any credit whatsoever, like give me just a little bit of credit,
Right.
make me a cool dad just for a half a minute,
Right.
and then other times, like I was talking to Charles the other day, and we were talking about going somewhere, and I was like, oh, I should come out and go with you, and we were joking around about some stuff, and what do you call it? So she says to me, she's like, so I heard your conversation, and so when are we going? I'm like, you weren't invited. I said, you weren't invited. How about that? And then my wife jumped on that bandwagon. Like, you weren't invited, so it sucks for you. But anyways, like, so I my when it suits them, I'm the cool dad, and when they want something, I'm the cool dad.
But what you remind me of that classic line from Tropical Thunder. I'm the dude that know the dude that know the dude that know the dude.
Yeah. It's crazy. I've been around for a long time. I've been in entertainment since I'm 5. I'm 46. So when you're talking about being around that long and being on the road touring and everything from, like I said, think about it, music to wrestling to art to to comics, to what do you call it, acting, to this, to that, the conventions, podcasting, you name it. I know so many different people that are my personal friends that have come through my life, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. I just am lucky enough to have been around for a long time and have made a lot of really cool friends along the way, and I'm very well respected in my circle. You know what I mean? And even outside of my circle, then other people hate me, and that's okay too. I can't help what other people are feeling. If they're upset that I'm doing stuff and they're not, that's cool. I know why you're mad. But what do you call it? But the fact is, at the end of the day, when if I ask, hey, can you do me a favor? Most of my friends will be like, no worries. Like, what do we need to do? Because they know that I would do it for them. I'm very authentic. I am a real friend in entertainment, where there's a lot of fair weather friends or fake friends or people that will, you think, all right, well, this is my buddy, but no, it's not. After you're done, you get off set, you never talk to each other again. But with me, I'm authentic. If we're friends, we're cool. Ride and die. You know what I mean? Like that's it. So I've been there for a lot of people. People that I'm not going to say names, but people that have gone through some really rough times, and I've helped them through them. What do you call it? And you'd never know because they're not putting it out there, and I'm sure I'm not putting it out there. But that's a real friend to make sure that their secret is safe. So,
and that shows the true character of individual as yourself.
Yeah.
That you as you get older, your circle gets smaller, so you know who you can trust. But let's talk about what came first. Was it the passion for music or the passion for wrestling? Because I know you were a part of a band, but before you started as a band, you were a child actor. You starred in Romper Room and other shows.
Sesame Street and Romper Room, yeah.
So, but what passion came first, music or wrestling?
My first love was art and comic books. and what do you call it? I was like a huge GI Joe fan and a huge X-Men fan, like Beast and Snake Eyes, two of my favorite characters. And what do you call it? Like, for me, I wanted to be a famous artist. I wanted to draw comic books. That's what I wanted to do. And then I wound up taking a turn. And I wound up we had to take an instrument in school. First, I was stuck playing the violin, and I hated it. And then what do you call it? I wound up being able to take drums, and I fell in love. And from there on out, elementary school moving forward, I played drums, and what do you call it? That became my passion, and I went to school for music, and that was amazing. And you know, I had a very interesting, upbringing in terms of the fact that, I grew up in a town called Uniondale, New York. For those of you who are not, don't know where that is, that's where the Nassau Coliseum is, the famous Nassau Coliseum. And what do you call it? It was, it's an all black area. I'm a white guy, if you couldn't tell. And what do you call what do you call it? Like I was one of the only white kids, and what do you call it? Where a lot of places, there was on Long Island, it's, there was a lot of all white kids and then maybe one or two black kids. It was the complete opposite for me. So I grew up hip hop. I grew up all rap, all hip hop. Like my friends are, the guys from Leaders of the New School, and I knew LL years ago, and guys from Houdini, and you know what I'm saying. Like these are the cats that I grew up with, and I knew them. You know what I mean? Like, I still speak to Dinko. I still speak to Dinko was on the show just a few weeks ago. Dinko came back on. C Brown lived behind me in Uniondale. You know what I mean? And his sisters are the original Black Doublemint twins. These are my girls. You know what I mean? What do you call it? And Run DMC. DMC is one of my very very close friends. So like hip hop for me was life. And what do you call it? Like had I stayed in that situation, maybe I could have been the next Eminem. Who would have known? But anyway, but at the end of the day, yeah, I spit a little. But what do you call it?
Oh, you got bars? You got some bars?
I'm not gonna spit any bars. I spit hot fire, Dylan. What do you call it? Like I do. There's a track or two, I think, on my official site in the music section that I never let anybody hear. But what do you call it? It is on there, so you can catch a little bit of something. But you got to remember that's from like years ago. But that being said, hip hop was life to me. But then my mother didn't want me going to the middle school that I would have been going to, and what do you call it? Because it was she was like, it's rough and blah blah blah, and I'm like, but I'm with all my friends and I'm cool, and like I'm all right with that, and she wanted to put me in because I'm Jewish. She put me in a private Jewish school, which was complete racial shock. You know what I mean? Because here I was, I was the token white kid. You know what I mean? And then they put me in this white Jewish school. Like, yeah, I went to temple and I went to Hebrew school and so forth, and it was it was all white. But like my every day, my friends and my like color wasn't a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like color wasn't a thing. And you go into I went into this private school, and here I am, and I am like completely, it's a culture shock because I'm used to this, and then they're all preppy, money, and what do you call it, and like heavy metal and rock, and and here I am, I'm like, like, all right, I'm hip hop guy, you know what I'm saying? And like that took some getting used to. And what do you call it? But the cool thing about it was that, in terms of my music and how I adapted in my music and the drumming is, I got really heavy into like the heavy music, but I played it with a hip hop feel. So, like, and that was before it was a thing, you know what I mean? Like, so like, even if you listen to some of the old music, like I said, it's the first time I've ever had old music on my website, since, I did it because the web was not a thing years ago. So, there's a bunch of the music out there, and you can tell in some of the heavier stuff, my hip hop, undertones, you know what I mean? Like, what do you call it? And again, like I still to this day, like my music playlist is a mixture of everything. You know what I mean? Very hip hop, very, very, metal, and then to the extremes of both. You know what I'm saying? Like hardcore on both, and what do you call it? You know, pansy on the other. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll listen to everything. I listen to Disney music. You know what I mean? It's just loving music as a whole. I've always loved music as a whole. And at some point, I will, I'm sure, go back. I've been in talks with a couple of other celebrities about doing, maybe a couple little projects and just stuff that we can do in our spare time. It just comes down to timing, and what we can do and work out. Because now we have the luxury of the internet. We have the luxury of taking tracks and sending them wherever in the world. So as long as there's no time limit, we have an idea of a time frame and put it together. And we've also there's a bunch of us that have spoken about it. So we'll see what happens.
That's the beauty about timing, is that you know where you fit in. Like, you were a part of a band, and over time you're like, all right, this band thing is not working out for me at this moment. I'm gonna figure out something else. So can you kind of talk about that next step from being a part of a band to say, you know what, I'm gonna see what else is out there for me, and that became, I think, basically wrestling fell into your lap, right?
Yeah, it was a very cool situation that had happened. But again, I've not everything is on my bio. You know what I mean? Like I've done a lot more than what's even on there. There's just I've done an extensive amount because I'm the guy that likes to do things that I want to do. You know what I mean? So like I did photography, what do you call it? But like, I have stuff that had been published and so forth. And, music in general, the biggest issue in music, if you're like a musician that doesn't play everything, back then, at least, not now. Now you can go in and you can do whatever. But what do you call it? Like then, if you didn't play everything, you were in a band, you're in a 4, 5, 6-way marriage, 3-way marriage, whatever it is, and it's hard enough to be, married to one person. There's always different things going on, but to have partners that you're, now what direction are we going? How are we doing this? What are we doing? So things like that became such an issue, and I was like starting to get fed up with it. People wanted to live in their van and crap like that. I'm like, dude, that's not my thing. Like, at the time, I was with my ex, and my daughter was going to be born, and or I was thinking about it at that time, and I was like, no, man, like, no, and for me, like I just wasn't. It was the marriage type of thing. I needed to take a step back from music, as much as I love it and I loved it, and I did not necessarily think that wrestling was going to take off and I was going to do everything I did in wrestling. But what do you call it? I was working for the Village Voice, their sister publication, which is the Long Island Voice, and which is gone now at this point. And I wound up being with them, and they knew I did the photography, and they were shorthanded. And at the time, I mean, I was doing all the entertainment sales. I handled all of the bars and clubs and so forth because I knew everybody, the music stores, all that jazz, because I knew everybody from the music scene. Yeah, like I'm always about. I'm the guy that knows I know everybody. You know what I mean? And being well known within that industry, I was able to make a lot of headway. That being said, the powers that be, that were at Long Island Voice at the time, they said, "Hey, Brim." Well, not Brim. They said Will at the time. They're like, we'd love for you to go and do us a favor. You'll be paid for it. There's a small wrestling event that's taking place at like it was like a Knights of Columbus. It was like a small con, a little convention. And we're sending our writer, Bill Jensen, there. Now, Bill Jensen was a sports writer. His father was a big baseball player. I don't remember what team, but Bill was a nice guy. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go with Bill. Works for me. And I'm getting paid. It works, So I wound up going, and, it was a really cool event. I always loved wrestling. I always loved watching. I always loved being a part of slapping people around and tossing people around, watching like WrestleManias and stuff like that. And for me, it was like, all right, well, this is really cool. And I got to meet a lot of people that wound up becoming friends later on in my career. But the first person that one of the people that I was speaking with was Shiki, Iron Sheik. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
and freaking Shiki, man, what do you call it? And it was
He's the one
before.
that formed the frame Jabroni. That's
Yeah,
where the Rock got
yeah,
Jabroni from, right?
yeah. He was Jabron. Oh, you're Jabron. So Shiki, and this was before he was doing his whole shtick that he does on Twitter. But he was, he's a real guy. He's a great guy. Amazing, amazing trainer. Funny enough, he didn't train me with the story. I'll tell you. He didn't train me, but I did have him come in and do a clinic with some of my boys when I had the wrestling school. And when I tell you, like, he had them working, man.
Wow.
He was fantastic. Because he's the real deal. He's tough as nails. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. And I don't know if you've ever seen him do the thing.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't remember what they're
absolutely.
called. Bro,
That's
that's
serious.
no joke. I've seen some of the biggest guys in the business try to do it, and they can't do it. Like,
Wow.
bro, like real deal. That being said, so I walk up and what do you call it? And they knew what I was there for because I had to take the pictures and everything. And after
Right.
we did that, Shiki looks at me, he goes, you look like you could be a wrestler. I train you to be a wrestler. You could be wonderful. I take you. You number one. Shiki number one. I train you. You become number one. I humble you. I'm like, this is like pretty cool. Like I wasn't expecting that. And then right away, his manager at the time, and I think he still works with him, Eric Sims, Snapshot. They called him Eric Snapshot Sims because he did a lot of photos with the boys and always had him autographed. And so he, what do you call it? Sims came over, he overheard it, and he starts what we call in wrestling, trying to work me. And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, if you want Sheik to train you, well, you can go fly out to Atlanta, and we have a place, and this, that, and the next thing you could do this, and it would be this much, or you could just, you could bring him here, but you'll put him up, and blah blah blah, and it'll be this." I was, whoa, hold on a second, I'm not ready for all that, brother. We were just talking about it. And that was my first taste of the business. And what do you call it? It just so happened that Bret Hart was there as well, and I think this was when he must have been with WCW at the time. It was like after the whole Montreal screw job and all that jazz. But he was he was doing these little cons, and he was there, and what he was so humble, and he calls me over and he goes, "Listen, if you're really interested in getting into the business." Here's my email, because he knew who I was there for too. It wasn't like I was some random, Joe Schmo. He knew I was there from the publication. He's like, if you're really looking to get into it, here's my email address. Remember, it's like AOL at the time. And what do you call it? He's like, listen, if you, just let me know if you're thinking about going to a place. I'll try to put you in the right direction. Make sure that, I tell you what to look out for. And, I was like, that's pretty awesome. Went around, met, like Bill Eadie and a bunch of other people, Sonny, like people that I know later on in life. But that being said, that went to sleep, and, time went by like it always does. And eventually I was looking through a magazine and I was like, wow, there's a school that's opening up in Queens, Brooklyn. And it was Queens at the time, then it moved to Brooklyn. And it was called Long Island Wrestling Federation, the Doghouse. And I was like, let me take a look. And I had Brett's email. I emailed him. I don't know if you remember me, but, you told me to let you know if I was thinking about something. And he got back to me. He told me, this is what to look out for. And, I went and I checked the place out and watched for what he told me to watch for. And it was legit. The rest is history, man. Went there. You're talking about, this is the place that produced such talents as Low Key, Senshi, whatever you want to call them, Homicide, 187. You know what I mean? The Amazing Red. What do you call it? So many different people that came out of there. You know what I mean? Papa Don. So it was an honor and a privilege to be one of the Doghouse Originals, and to be around such amazing talent. And it's you look back and you go, wow, all right, wow, that was a time, man. That was a really cool time. And I got to work with some really cool people. And had I not done that, I might not have done the things that I've done. You know what I mean? So kudos to pro wrestling.
True, but what was that one match you had when you knew, like, this is for me? What was that match? If you can remember.
You know, I to be honest, like I always looked at them as little, like business meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I never really was like, oh, that's the match. Like there are fun things and fun matches that I've had. There was one match that stands out in my mind, and it was an indie match that I was doing in Bum F somewhere. And at the time, we were working with a couple of guys. So when we went on the road, I was myself and my partner Mike Mayhem. And we tagged as Critical Mass. The two of us, even though we had like a little faction, we tagged as Critical Mass. That's where we really got a lot of steam. Is doing the tag, and what do you call it? We had been working with a couple of guys that and I'll always give them credit. They gave us our first professional match at Triple W. What do you call it? Wrestling Worldwide, which really I did a lot with them. I was the champion there, which was on Telemundo and all that jazz. So everything, overseas was huge. But what do you call it for the time, we would go and we were working with these two. It was what do you call it? Rocky and TNT. What do you call these two guys and great guys, and I love them to death, and I still talk with them every so often now. And they gave us that opportunity and to be seen. And our first match, we had well over 4,000 people there. Our first pro match, not like a student match or anything like that. And so we were spoiled right off the bat, and the egos came. That was bad. But what do you call it? We were jobbing. We jobbed to them, like for the first God knows how many times we were jobbing, and we went to this one promoter, and like it was usually in their their agreement, because Rocky would bring the ring, so. They're like, we bring the ring, and then we get to work with whoever, and we're going over. So what do you call it? So but this promoter was like, yeah, no, we want them to go over. And he was like, and I love Rocky. Rocky was like, no. And then what do you call it? And the promoter's like, yeah, and what do you call it? And then Freddie, which is TNT, he was like, yeah, look, they deserve it, and so forth, and whatever, we should be doing it. So the promoter and Freddie said, you guys are over tonight, and it was a hardcore match. And what do you call it? Mike and I looked at each other, and we were just like, it's on. We grabbed everything we could find in this building, including a kitchen sink. For real. And we beat the ever-living snot out of them almost the entire match. Obviously they got their comeuppance here and there, but it was, so if you want to talk about my most memorable pivotal moment, in terms of like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? Like, because we would always have to be on the receiving end, you know what I mean, of that. And how do you, when you're new and you're fresh and you're green, you need to pay your dues. So, like, that's great, but how, you also need to win, and you need to be able to grow and build your trademark and build your gimmick and so forth. And the Brimstone character was meant to be a big, strong, powerful character. And what do you call it? So after that, things changed. And things went in the right direction. And we got booked all over the place. And we did, like I said, we did a lot of tag. We did some singles here and there, and mixed in. And it was a time, man. What do you call it? Loved pro wrestling, loved everything about it. Except for the politics. The politics, I don't even want to care to get into that, because everybody wants what you have. You know what I mean? If you're doing something and you're in, it's a dog eat dog world, and you're wearing milk-bone underwear is pretty much what it comes down to. And that's all I want to say about that. There are a lot of really good people, and then there are a lot of scumbags too.
Right. And it's just knowing the scumbags and distancing yourself from the scumbags.
Yeah.
But what did you think about WrestleMania Sunday and Saturday? What did you think?
I have not watched wrestling in long time. The only time I ever tune in is if like a former student or a friend of mine is like, hey, can you do me a favor and watch this match? And then I'll tune in when it's supposed to be on, and I'll try to give them some pointers. But that's it. Like, I don't have time. Right. Two, the state of pro wrestling now is not like it was then. I love pro wrestling for what it was. I'm not a huge fan of what's happening now. There's a lot of great workers. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of great workers, but like I'm a gimmick guy, man. I like the old school gimmicks. Like the best thing to come out of WWE recently, and it has nothing to do with work ethic or anything, is the fact that they're doing the whole Fiend thing. You know what I mean? Because he's coming out. He's kind of like, he might be, I don't know, maybe he's going to take the torch from Taker. You know what I mean, and be that next character that lasts a long time. But he comes from a wrestling family. Was he second or third generation? At the end of the day, like, it's a gimmick. It's a shtick. Like, I'm a gimmick guy, and that's why I had longevity. Is because I was able to take that gimmick, turn it into a comic book, turn it into an animated character, turn it into a kid's book, do all this and that character, toys and crap that, on my own, you know what I mean? And with the companies I work with. So, so that to me is a win. You know what I mean? I'm sick of the people that they're all cardboard cookie cutter. Everybody's the same, and if you can't work the stick, bro, like, you can't freaking get on the stick and talk and not sound as though you're reading from a script, or like this. Like, dude, bro, go back to school, man. Like,
luckily you didn't see it, because I feel like they're gonna bury that character. I don't, unfortunately, the Fiend. I saw it.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna bury his character. The way they, it was horrible. It was atrocious. To be honest with you, but what I missed about the old school wrestling was the storyline. Because I remember back in the days, they would have storylines that would lead like a year, that would lead to WrestleMania, which they don't even do anymore.
Right. Well, then it meant something. You know what I mean? Then it meant something. And when somebody gets in against somebody else, you've got some, you've got real, like, got some mojo brewing. You know what I mean? And you could tell a story in the ring. That's another thing, is a lot of people nowadays, and not everybody, but a lot of people nowadays, they don't tell a story in the ring. It's like high spot after spot after spot after spot. Like, tell a story. Big guy, little man. You know what I mean? Like, work the crowd. And and I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, maybe I'm too old school, but like, you could get in there and work goddamn wrist lock and a headlock for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, you want to be a heel? You want to be a real heel? Work a wrist lock for 20 minutes. Then, you know what I mean? And let me see your reaction. You know what I'm saying? If you can't get reaction doing that, then get the freaking hell out. You know what I mean? Like, you need to work, tell a story. You know what I mean? Let the face freaking work out of it, and then freaking shut them down. Like, nowadays there's very, very vague lines. Like who's a heel, who's a face. There's a lot of tweeners. I always called them a tweener. And I'm guilty, because I was a tweener. You know what I mean? I was supposed to be a heel.
Right.
But, I wound up being a face a lot of the time. And that wasn't by my own doing. And that's a positive, but regardless, at the end of the day, wrestling was a very big chunk of my life. And it was sad to see it go. But what do you call it? Nice to know you. No, I always had that itch. I even posted on Instagram the other day. I'm like, here's an old pic, like, well, maybe I'm getting that itch again. I've been offered so many times, but if the money's not right and the timing's not right, I just can't do it. And I don't want to necessarily get in the ring full time again. Like, if I want to go in, just to get into ring shape again, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a shape, I'm round, and that's not good. I need to be able to breathe.
Like a manager doing like what MVP is doing, maybe.
Well, I don't know what MVP is doing. We have mutual friends. I don't know him personally.
MVP, he's basically saving Raw. Like, he created, he helped boost up the Hurt. They created the Hurt business, which is Seth Benjamin and
yeah. I heard about that.
And
but I heard that they're ruining that too. They're ruining that too.
They killed that. Yeah. Fortunately. Yeah.
You know what? I don't know what they're doing over there. And nor do I necessarily care. If I was called up by one of the bigs at this point, it would be maybe a conversation to have, but I don't know. I'm not in that position, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish AEW was around when I was still working. You know what I mean? I think that's a great opportunity for people. Do I think that it competes with WWE? They're trying. I think that they came out probably at the worst possible time with COVID. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's great of a product as you do that you have, now you're competing with COVID. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that if COVID didn't happen, they could have been a bigger contender right out of the gate. But we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? A lot of people will go in there. The mistake that I hope that they don't make is to do what like TNA did,
Or
um,
WCW. Yeah,
or
kind of.
WCW, where they forget that the young talent is also the heart of the business, and you want to have your guys, and you need to have the old school boys sprinkled in, and you need to make sure that the respect is there, and you need to make sure that they're guiding the younger cats and giving the feedback and teaching them how to tell the stories in the ring. But you also don't want to make them the super focus. But when you got guys like Jericho who can still work and still freaking kill it, you know what I mean? The guy's a freaking monster, man. He's a ring general, and he'll always be a ring general. You know what I mean? And it's like Flair. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna get in you get in the ring with Flair. It's a clinic. You know what I mean? It's a clinic. This you know what I mean? Like, but they got a guy like Jericho who could still work the stick. He could work he could tell a story. He works the match. He gives 200% when he goes out there, and he's one hell of a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, somebody like that, he's just, you have to give him the screen time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But from what I also know, I believe that he's been putting some of the guys over and helping, transition some of the younger guys to where they need to be. I could be wrong, but I mean, I heard that that's what's going on. But again, I have not watched any AEW. I have not watched any TNA in a long time. I've not watched WWE in a long time. I'm removed. I'm removed from the show. You know what I mean? I loved it. I miss it. I'd love to get back in the ring. But at the end of the day, it's not my number one right now. You know what I mean? I work on what pays the bills.
I'm with you 100%, brother. I'm with you, man. I'm a part of I'm singing with the choir. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah.
But going back to nostalgia, I think one of my favorite teams, in that era was Crime Time. I felt like Crime Time with JTG and Shade, they could have been the Harlem Heat of the WWE if they were kind of put in a better, I would say, position to grow, because they were great on the mic and they were good wrestlers.
Well, the fact is, and I know, Harlem Heat, why you went to Harlem Heat, and and they did a lot for what do you call it, for black men in professional wrestling. But when you're talking about quality of work, Crime Time well exceeds what those guys did, and I'm not, there's no hate there. I think that they're great. What do you call it? Harlem Heat is iconic. Obviously Booker T's still doing things. What do you call it? And what do you call it? I did the Ricky Lake show years ago with oh my god, I can't believe I just blanked on his name. His brother. So what do you call it? I can't believe I just blanked on his name. Shame on me. Shame on me. But anyway, nice guys. Booker I met briefly. We were both we were invited to do some Walking Dead thing. So we met in the green room there. Nice guy. But I really don't know him. With Crime Time, the one thing that I didn't like is that it went straight to the gimmick of, why do these guys have to be from the hood? Why do they have to be like, put and be portrayed like that? Because, I came from that type of neighborhood, you know what I mean? And, but I also got it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when they did it, balls to the wall, and they put their everything into it. And their work ethic in ring was and in tandem, together they had such good chemistry in the ring. And like you said, they could work the mic, both of them. And that's a bonus too. Being able to work the mic, get people moving. It doesn't matter if they're screaming, yelling, hooting, hollering, booing, hissing, cheering, crying, as long as they're reacting. That's all that's everything. And what do you call it? Yeah, no, man. But I always thought that they were fantastic. I was teetering off watching at that point when they were in. but I caught plenty of it. And obviously once I met Shad, I became, I always looked back and stuff, and he'd post stuff, so I would always look and watch, and I got to know what they did a hell of a lot better. We had a lot of mutual friends, and we never worked with each other in ring, but we met when we were signing out in Austin, Texas, for Wizard World, and I'd gone over to see. I'm pretty sure it was Luke, Bushwhacker Luke, and DiBiase, and Honky was there. So I went over to see the boys, and they introduced me to Shad and JTG, and I didn't really stay in touch with him, but Shad became one of my brothers, and we bonded over comics, we bonded over family, we bonded over everything, food, you name it, and we had the same passion for what do you call, like I said, family, for work. We had bigger goals and bigger dreams of just being a wrestler. And what do you call it? He had so many different things going on. It's very difficult for me to talk about it because Shad was a good friend of mine. And like I said, I loved him to death. And for me, everything that had happened, it shows, the way he went out, which is not the way he should have gone out. But what do you call it? It was for his son, and he gave himself up to save his son. That being said, one of the best guys that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing in the business and out. Last time I got to see Shad was we wound up doing I was at San Diego Comic-Con. So signing at San Diego Comic-Con, and I was doing a couple of appearances on the IMDb boat. So if you're not familiar with IMDb, it's the Internet Movie Database. It's a big to do, and I was invited there. I was doing a bunch of different things. I was there for a couple different nights, and it's one of the big after parties. Also, it's difficult to get on there. And what do you call it? I was brought over because I'm very friendly with a lot of people from View Askew. For those of you who don't know View Askew, it's Kevin Smith's group, and like lots of good friends of mine. Brian O'Halloran, the comic book man, Marilyn Gigliotti, Ernie O'Donnell. These people, these are like my family. And but I had never met Kevin before. He knew who I was, and obviously I know who Kevin was, but I'd never met him before. So we were on the IMDb boat, and this story's going somewhere. Trust me. And what do you call it? So Marilyn says to me, she goes, "You still haven't met Kevin, have you?" I'm like, no, we haven't met yet. And he was up on the carpet, and she goes, "Come with me." So she grabbed me by the wrist and she drags me through what do you call it, to go over there. And again, it's like a very intimate setting. And he sees her, in the middle of everybody taking pictures, and he stops everything and he's like, come in. So he grabs Marilyn, and she comes in there taking a bunch of pictures, and she says to him, she goes, "I need to finally introduce you to Brim." And he goes, yeah, he's here. And she's like, "Yeah." So he's like, come here. So I went up. So now the three of us are sitting and talking. We're getting acquainted while everybody's taking pictures, and which is not the first time this has happened to me. And we're sitting having a conversation, and people are taking pictures, and I, what do you call it? And I said to him, you need to do something for me. I said, I need to live chat with my wife, because she's a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Right.
So what do you call it? And I'd never do that stuff. You know what I mean? I said, but with you, I've got to do it. I said, so we're going to have to do it at some point. He goes, well, let's do it now. I'm like, okay, why not? So I start the thing, we go, and all of a sudden I hear from behind me, Brimstone, and jumps on me, and I'm like, son of a bee. And I turn around, there's that big freaking good looking black man with that big ass smile, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. And I turn around and gave him the biggest hug, and I'm sitting and trying to film whatever, and with him is my buddy Greg Sipes, who does Beast Boy from Teen Titans. And so now here we are, it's Marilyn, myself, Kevin Smith, Shad, and Greg, and people are just shooting away, and I'm sitting, I'm filming this, but it wasn't live because my wife wasn't answering. So it was a video that I was going to send to her. And then I realized that the video, I had all this on and the video didn't record.
Oh wow.
So what do you call it? I got like the end where Shad jumped on me. So I had that, which I think I posted at some point, after he passed. But anyway, long story longer, you always knew when Shad was in the room. You know what I mean? And what do you call it? He the last time I saw him was then. Him and Greg were like, "Hey, we're going over to the WB party. Why don't you come roll with us? We're gonna go shoot over there." I'm like, I can't because I had my crew there and I didn't want to. I'm very loyal. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't want to leave my crew. And what do you call it? I wound up going and staying at the IMDb party, and they went and what do you call it? I spoke to him once or twice after that, and then I found out that he died. So it was, but that, at least my last memory of him was a great one where he snuck up behind me with that big booming voice. And like you think I have a big booming voice. Some people like always talking about my and when I come to people and talk, but man, like he had a booming, he had a presence, man. He had such a presence. He was a funny son of a bitch. You know what I mean? He's a jokester, and he's just a good dude. And we were sitting, we had some time just together on the boat. It was just the two of us, and we're sitting. If you saw, I posted on Instagram the picture of me by the what do you call it, the steering thing on the yacht.
Yeah.
So right there is like a little stairwell, and what do you call it? There was some security that was there, so they let us, kind of get away from the crowd because they had some fans on board, but it was mostly names or industry people, but they were people that won the right to get on there. So they kind of kept everybody at bay, and we were kind of just finally had a little bit of time to just relax and talk. And he was like, I have this going on, I have that going on, and this is happening, and I'm finally going to be doing something with the comic book, and blah blah blah, and yada yada, and just everything. And yeah, so he was it was a great guy. It's a shame he was gone way too soon, and he deserved a lot better.
Yeah,
But
he was a doer. Like he would say, like what the stories I've read about him and the videos that people talk about him. He was the type of guy that said, "I'm going to do this,"
yep,
and he did it.
that's like me. Yeah, we got along like two peas in a pod. You know what I mean? And we clicked. You know what I mean? We got each other. Like you would have thought that the two of us were, had known each other forever. But yeah, he was a good cat, man. He was a really good cat, and I was brokenhearted. His wife had let me know. She's like, Brim, I would really love if you could make it out to the funeral. Not it's the funeral, but it was also the personal one with just friends. Just friends had come. And what do you call it? They had a nice thing by the ocean where he was pulled under, and it was a nice tribute. We're just friends. No, it was private, and I couldn't make it because it was COVID. I couldn't fly out there, so I was brokenhearted at the time. I wanted to be there, and I wanted to be there for her. I wanted to be there for his son. I wanted to be there for any mutual friends. I just and for myself, I just couldn't go. I couldn't make it, and it was really upsetting. And I thought about it. My wife was like, "Listen, you can go, but you're taking a risk. We don't know." And that was before we knew anything, about how you're going to get the virus and what's going to happen and so forth. And so it was a rough thing. It was very rough not being able to be there. It was even rougher not being able to go to the funeral, and that's that. You know what I'm saying? And I still speak to his wife every so often. I'll check in and see how she's doing. And what do you call it? And Greg and I still talk about how we miss him and his big self. And it's like just what do you do? Just there was just a lot of love there. You know what I mean? Just a lot of love. Anyway, so that's my Shad story.
No, man, and it's a beautiful thing, man. And I want to thank you for sharing that story, man, because I can hear the emotions in your voice of how much you miss him and the memories
Yeah.
you had with him, and it just and again, thank you for that. But before we close the interview, being a great storyteller that you are, being a father, being a man of many things, can you talk about the importance of storytelling and legacy? And how
Uh,
they go hand in hand.
you know, there are a lot of big people in history that have done big things. And if you notice, most of them, they're storytellers. You know what I mean? When you want to leave a mark, you want to leave a mark on the world. You need to leave a legacy. That's all you have. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you have kids, you're passing, your seed down, and you're passing your name down, and so forth. But eventually it runs out. When you got people like Michael Jackson, Prince, who died, wasn't Kobe Bryant, right? It was the other basketball player, the big basketball player who just passed away with the helicopter
Oh,
crash.
That was
It was
Kobe
Kobe Bryant.
Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. I'm not a big like I said, I'm not a big basketball person, but I know Kobe Bryant. Storytellers. They had a story. They told their story. You know what I mean? And people wanted to listen. And that's leaving a legacy. You're always going to remember Michael Jackson and Prince and Madonna and you know what I mean, and Britney Spears and Kobe Bryant and Eminem and Busta Rhymes, and these are characters, and they're characters with a story. And when they tell the story, you can feel their passion, you can feel the love that they have for what they do and what they've done and what they've accomplished. And for me, like it's the same thing. Like I've modeled a lot of my career of people like, funny enough, like a Madonna. You know what I mean? Not because I'm obviously not a woman, and I'm certainly not a virgin. But at the end of the day, like she one thing she said in her early career is like every few years she changes her entire look and so forth, and rebrands herself to stay current with the times. And and she's always out there. She's always has her face is always around. Some people like that, you know what I mean? If they're smart, they're always going to be relevant. Stan Lee, you know what I mean? Storyteller, you know what I mean? Like Peter Mayhew, you might not know him under his name, Chewbacca, but he was a storyteller. What do you call it? The same thing with what do you call it? Carol Spinney, Big Bird, storyteller. You know what I mean? Like legendary people, like legendary characters, things that and for me, like I've learned from a lot of these people. One of the coolest things that one of the coolest conversations that I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of, and I just sat there and shut the F up because I had to just listen. I went with DMC and DMC and myself and Max, who was Stanley's agent, what do you call it, for the longest time. We went to, after signing a Kamikaze, we went and shot over to hang out and do the Black Eyed Peas. They were doing an event, so we wound up going and we were backstage there. And what do you call it? So, you got like Redman and Flav was back there and like a whole bunch of people, some that I knew, some that I didn't. And I was in a circle with DMC and Taboo, just talking truth, just speaking about personal things that we're not going to talk about here, but just personal experience and so forth, and just you just shut up and you listen. It doesn't matter how much I've done and how much I've accomplished and what I can add to any conversation. Sometimes you just shut the F up and you listen. That was one of the most amazing conversations that I've ever been in a fly on the wall and just hung out, and enjoyed. Because D is a storyteller. You listen to anything that he ever does. You listen to any Grindhouse Radio episode that D's been on, and he speaks truth, and he is authentic as it comes, and he's one of my dear friends, and I love him to death, and I respect everything that comes out of his mouth. You know what I mean? And I back it 200%. He is the real deal. You know what I mean? Stan, amazing. When he used to talk. And another time that I was in the middle of a conversation that I was like, what am I going to add to this conversation? Was I was alone with, it was Stan, myself, and Carrie Fisher, and that was also at Kamikaze. And Max had set it up. Stan's going to be alone at this time. He said, "Come by. He hasn't seen you." I said, "Okay." And I went by, and we were sitting and talking. It was very rare that Stan and I were ever alone together. Like we were never alone together. And even in his offices, everybody's around, And what do you call it? So I was in there, and then I'll never forget, Carrie Fisher walks in the room, and I'd never met Carrie before. And I always say this about certain people. They have that energy, and like it's a positive energy. There's a negative energy, but like Stan, huge, powerful energy. And then Carrie came in the room, ridiculous energy. And
Right.
Stan introduced me, and I'm like, Carrie Fisher, okay. All right, all right. This is cool. Princess Leia's in front of me, and that's like, and I don't fanboy. I've been around for way too long. I don't
Right.
care about that. But this is an iconic, player, and and she was absolute doll to me. Gave me a big hug and kiss, the whole 9 yards, and I had it was such an overwhelming energy.
Right.
I couldn't. I had to excuse myself.
Wow.
And that's another story that I have told because it was you don't understand. You can't unless you've been in that situation. You just can't understand. You know what I mean? Like some people have that aura about them. These are legendary creatures that like they're unicorns. You know what I mean? You don't get that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like
Facts.
so having that opportunity, like you know, you sit there and you just shut up and listen
Yeah.
because they're telling stories and you're listening and you hear how they're talking and what they're talking about and at the end of the day it was just an honor and a privilege and so for me I think that for me legacy is everything. And I want to make sure to leave a legacy that people remember and say, you know what, he was an authentic guy, he did what he wanted to do, he was successful doing what he wanted to do, he wasn't necessarily on the top of the food chain, and he didn't need to be, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I know where I am in the food chain. I'm in a
Right.
pretty decent spot, and if I go further, great. If I get knocked down, that's fine too. But what do you call it? At the end of the day, I know that I'm leaving a legacy, and that's what matters most.
And what matters most is you just gave me a shut the fuck up, listen moment.
Happens. It
But I
happens.
love it, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, man. These are moments that I cherish a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I created the podcast. It's just
Yeah.
to listen to people's stories.
Yeah. No, very cool. I appreciate you having me. What do you call it? If anybody wants to check me out,
Yes,
therealbrimstone.com. Please check me out, therealbrimstone.com. Anything, any social media, what do you call it? I am very engaging. When you're going on social, it's me. If you're disrespectful, I just ignore you or delete you. No time for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you want to be a smart mark and be a wise guy, like I have no time for that crap. You want to be serious, you want to come hang out, you want to have a good time with me, I am authentic and real, and I will absolutely engage with you. Come have a nice time with me, enjoy whatever I put up, or don't enjoy it. It's up to you. You know what I'm saying? And engage. Let's talk. Same thing. And you can get all my social media right on my official site. There are fakes out there, so make sure you're looking for the blue check. I am, what do you call? I'm verified on Facebook. I'm verified on Instagram. Twitter, I'm still waiting, but it's at Entrance to Hell on Twitter. You can get that right directly from my website. So this way you make sure there's not a mistake.
awesome. And we are out. Thank you. Peace.